Numbers show it's a growing problem. Millennials aren't achieving major milestones like buying a house or saving for retirement thanks to mounting debt. Local financial professional Mike Kojonen from Principal Preservation Services joins us now to share important tips to conquer debt once and for all. Mike, thanks for coming on as usual.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know this personally is a problem for me with student loan debt, but how big of a problem is student loan debt just across the country?
It is. It's a big problem, Jeff. $1.6 trillion is our national student loan debt and growing. And, you know, it's not a big issue now for a college graduate or unknown issue to walk away from college with $25,000 to $50,000 in debt just with a four-year degree. So, you know, it's different than the generation prior where maybe their grandparents could work a summer job and pay for school for the year. Now you work a summer job, you're lucky to pay for the book. So it's causing a big issue as with their postponing these milestones about getting married, having kids, you know, buying a house, all these type of, you know, even for retirement. These are big issues that have to be addressed. It's
almost like right when you get that first job, the first thing you have to think about is how do I get this loan down? So what are some ways to dig out of the debt early?
Yeah, first one, again, just like you said, attack it right away. Obviously, when you get that job, you can't attack it if you're still looking, but when you get that job, try to focus and get it paid off in 10 years. I mean, I see people postponing for 20, and some people have these lifetime loans. Those interest rates aren't that low anymore. So you want to make sure that's paid off so you can get on with life. And in order to do that, to go to tip number 2 is track every dollar. That comes to budgeting. You're not going to be able to do that without having a proper budget. Now, I like the old paper and pen budget where you write down your expenses and you write down all the income coming in. But today, the millennials, they like to have these apps. So mint.com, mint.com has a really good app to monitor your expenses. The key is not just download the app, but utilize it and stay on top of it to make sure you're getting the most out of it, to make sure you're staying within that budget.
And at the same time, as you're trying to take care of the debt, as you're trying to pay rent, you have to, I always hear this from my elders, always said, you better make sure you're still saving.
That's right, yeah, for emergencies. I know of 2 people just in the last 6 months, under age 30, that had some out of the work injury, been out of work for over 6 months. And so, you know, you can't just focus all your money on just putting every dollar towards that debt. You need to have that emergency fund and do what you can early. So start with $25 a week or month, whatever you can to get that up. But usually you want to have 3 to 6 months of your expenses set aside for some sort of emergency fund. And then it goes into the next one is retirement. You can't just focus all your debt on just an emergency fund or just putting towards debt. You need to be planning for retirement, because if you postpone for retirement until your debt is paid, well, you're going to lose 10 years at least of compounding growth. So when you get that first job, you're going to do all of these at the same time, but get that free money from your employer, that 3% or 5%, so you can let that money compound and grow. So I think a good basis is when you're in your 20s, and you should just get at least that company match. But when you're in your 30s, you should be 5 to 10% of your income that goes into retirement accounts. When you're in your 40s, 10 to 15%. And by the time you're in your 50s to the last maybe 5 years of retirement, you should be maxing out that 401k contribution, 403b, and your IRAs, so you can make a really good impact. So you can't just set your allocations and forget it. You need to be changing those constantly.
And you mentioned retirement, and we talked about this a second ago. I almost couldn't fathom it. People in retirement but still have debt, so it's almost like maybe you're eating your savings to get out of that debt. What do you tell people about when they reach that point where maybe they're still in debt or they're at retirement? What do they do at that point?
Yeah, debt, as I said, again, attack it just like your student loan is. No good debt is great debt. I know we do talk about good debt and bad debt. So the bad debt is credit card and student loans. Get rid of that. But that good debt of the house debt, well, is it such a great debt today when we're under this tax reform, which you might not even qualify to deduct the mortgage interest because of the, you know, the standard deductions have increased. So focus on getting rid of that as well, because when I sit down with people day in and day out, the ones who are debt-free prior to retirement have a really easy retirement plan compared to the ones who are still making those debts. They have to hinder it. They have to change how retirement looks like for them. They thought they'd be traveling. They thought they'd be doing these things. They can't do the things they wanted to do, all because they didn't focus on it at an earlier age. So we don't want them to be, these college graduates to be in that place.
Those best years of your life have to start early.
That's right.
All right, thank you so much for the tips, Mike. And if you'd like more money advice from Mike, just head to WCCO.com.